I'm at the Seattle airport early in the morning, waiting to catch a flight across the country to the Orlando, Florida airport. I'm traveling for some work meetings out at Cape Canaveral in the Kennedy Space Center, and am looking forward to enjoying some travels along the way. I thought I would capture some video of my travels this week and edit it up into a trip video so I could share the travel experience with y'all.
Slight delay this morning, a little rainy outside, but off to Florida. So we should get to Orlando here. Plenty of time to enjoy the sun, get out to the beach.
Your crew today is Captain Eric, First Officer Christina. I'm Jeanette, and with me are Erica, Stephanie, and Audrey. Safety is our highest priority.
All right, let's get this trip started. It was a bit of a rainy situation on the ground here in Seattle this morning, with temperatures in the mid-40s. However, some breaks in the clouds gave a clear view of the nearby Olympic Mountains, standing in the golden sunlight of a Pacific Northwest morning. Maybe Mount Rainier will be on display after all. Let's get into the air and find out. All right, the Southwest 37 in front of us took off. Now it's our turn to line up and roar down the runway. Next stop, Orlando, Florida. Quickly, we ascended into the cloud layer, blocking the view of the suburbs around the Tacoma area. But soon, we were above the cloud layer altogether, splashed with the golden sunlight of morning as we soared along our flight path. And look at that! Mount Rainier is standing proud above the cloud layers, putting on quite the display. What an impressive volcano standing out at 14,000 feet above sea level, well taller than any of the surrounding peaks. There's still some snow out there on the mountains here on this early April morning. It'll still be a few more months before everything's melted out and summer exploration can begin here in the mountains of Washington State. Before long, we crossed the Columbia River, making our way out of Washington and traveling over into the northeastern side of Oregon. Taking in the sights from 36,000 feet as we cruised high over the clouds is always an enjoyable experience for me. Even from this vantage, the mountainous terrain of eastern Oregon and soon Idaho was clearly evident out the window. The mountains of Idaho were particularly impressive this morning. The snow accented the definition, it looked great. I need to move Idaho higher up on the list for places to visit on this upcoming gravel-bound season. An extended trip through the forests and mountains of Idaho would be great fun. After Idaho, next we flew over a corner of Wyoming, where the snowy peaks of the Sublette Range were visible between the patches of clouds. It would be fun to visit Wyoming as well on a gravel-bound episode. I've not been there since I was a youngster. I have some good memories from trips in Wyoming. Snack service on the flight included a beverage. I went with coffee and a Biscoff cookie, which paired nicely with my drink. Sipping on coffee as we cruised at 80% of the speed of sound across the United States was a very enjoyable experience this morning. The patchy cloud shadows looked particularly cool over this reservoir out here on the plains of Wyoming. I bet there's some nice places to camp down there. We continued on our way east, flying over several small towns nestled within the Wyoming terrain. Rock Springs in particular looked really picturesque, with mountains surrounding it on all sides. I'll have to visit Rock Springs, Wyoming one day. Continuing on our way, flying into Colorado from the northwestern part of the state. We overflew numerous rivers, snaking their way along the terrain into the soaring peaks of the Rocky Mountains. It did get a little bumpy for a few minutes as we crossed over the Rockies, but nothing uncomfortable, and only for a few short minutes. There were some big cumulus clouds forming around many of the peaks and ridges here in the mountains of Colorado, but there were still views to be had, as some of the taller 14,000-foot mountains stood proud of the cloud banks, conveniently on display for us this morning as we continue on our sightseeing trip across the country. Longmont, Colorado stands right on the border between the mountains of the western United States and the Great Plains of North America. We flew right over the Denver airport. Even at 36,000 feet, the size of this airport is immense. It was cool watching other air traffic make their way into and out of the airport this morning from our Overwatch perspective. Okay, now let's fly across the breadbasket of America, where numerous small little farm towns dot across the landscape. While each of these small little towns are similar, they all have their own unique charm and feel. Burlington, Colorado is a town I traveled through many times in my youth. They used to have a family restaurant with a model train running around the ceiling in the main dining room. Probably long gone now. Across into Kansas, and then soon into Oklahoma, where it was evident that the winds were blowing across the plains. It was nice and green as we crossed over into the western side of Arkansas, a stark difference from the brown of the Oklahoma deserts. Across Alabama and over into Mississippi, it was smooth sailing on our Boeing ship as we cruised over the southern United States, making our way further and further east. I can think of a few songs about Tupelo, Mississippi. All right, getting close now. Soon we'll be to our destination, soaking up the sun on the sunny beaches of Florida and dipping our toes into the Atlantic Ocean. Florida, here we come. This big round lake, Kingsley Lake, was a cool sight to see as we began our descent down into Florida. The map shows a military installation on the eastern side of the lake, Camp Blanding. Soon, we were descending into the suburbs of Orlando, making our way south of downtown and towards the airport. The winds must be from the north today, so we continued past the airport to get lined up for an approach from the south. Before long, we will be on the ground, ready for the next step of this week's journey. But first, landing. It was a pretty smooth landing and a great flight overall this morning across the width and height of the continental United States. Thanks Alaska Airlines for the smooth ride this morning.
Please take clear flight test disarm doors for arrival.
Orlando Airport. Let's go see if we can find a rental car.
I got on the terminal train at the Orlando Airport and exited the terminal, making my way straight over to the rental car desk. Only carry-ons for me this trip, so no need to stop by the baggage claim. I picked up my rental car for the week, a black Chevy Malibu. Not bad.
On the toll road, headed to Cocoa Beach. It's a beautiful day. High 70s, partly cloudy, but lots of blue sky out there. The sun is shining. All right, let's get to the beach, see what we can find. 32 miles to Cocoa.
All right, Cocoa Beach, here we come. It was some beautiful weather here in Florida this early April afternoon. I made my way across the causeway, passing over Merritt Island, and then on to Cocoa Beach. The big cruise ships over there at Cape Canaveral Cruise Port stand tall. The size of those behemoths is just unbelievable. We'll get a closer view of one of those ships tomorrow as I head into work. But first, let's cruise down Cocoa Beach towards the hotel.
All right, we're at the hotel. See if we can get checked in. And then I think we ought to go check out the beach. I mean, that's kind of the first thing you got to do when you get to Florida, right? All right, let's go get checked in, see what we can find.
I think that was a cardinal in the palm tree across the parking lot, chirping away, adding to the tranquility.
Beautiful weather so far. It's got to be just in the mid-70s, light breeze. It's pretty pleasant. A lot better than the cold and rain in Seattle. This is nice. Shaping up to be a good week. All right, let's check out this hotel room. Just got checked in. Let's see what the view looks like. It said Atlantic view. Oh yeah, look at that. There's the beach right there. Got the 2 queen-size beds. Surf theme. Hey, we're at the beach, that's for sure. Nice big bathroom, bathtub. This is gonna be a good trip. This tower's over there in that tall building. That's the Blue Origin Launch Complex. There you go, there's the integration facility. There's gonna be a rocket that rolls out of that building and launches right from that pad. This year, it's gonna happen this year. All right, I think we should go check out the beach. All right, waiting for the SpaceX launch here on Cocoa Beach. Should be going up here any minute now. It'll be spectacular. Soon Blue will be launching from that big pad right over there.
There were quite a few people out on the beach with me this afternoon, waiting for the SpaceX launch. Even though SpaceX launches are almost routine now, it was good to see that they still draw the crowds. Watching a booster return to the landing pad is something to see. All right, look at that. The Falcon 9 is in the air, boosting its payload to space. On this flight, the Falcon 9 Block 5 booster is flying the Bandwagon 1 mission. Basically a rideshare mission with a batch of 11 different small satellites, each flying their own mission, up at about 600-kilometer orbit around the Earth. They're on their way now. Despite the immense amount of flame and noise coming out of the back of the rocket, there was very little sound of the launch apparent here on Cocoa Beach. A distant rumble was all to be heard during the boost phase of the launch. After a few minutes of searching the skies, the booster was seen again, screaming back down from a high altitude, targeting the landing pad at nearby Cape Canaveral Space Force Base. Man, that is super cool to see. A tall rocket booster touching down gently on the ground, ready to fly again another day.
That was pretty cool. This is Sonic Boom. Turn the camera off. That was cool to see. Return to landing site. That's cool.
After the launch, the crowds on the beach cleared out quickly. Having been a long day of travel, it was nice to plant myself down on the beach here for a while and watch the birds and the waves as the sun slowly set behind me. It was a pretty nice evening here on Cocoa Beach. A great way to start what's going to be a long work week. After it got dark, I made my way back up to the hotel. It sure is convenient to be staying at a hotel located directly on the beach. Up a few steps of boardwalk, and I was at the hotel deck, walking past the pool and directly into the lively, open-air Longboards Tiki Beach Bar and Grill. An excellent place to grab a bite for dinner and a beer to unwind after a long day of traveling or working. After some chicken quesadillas and a drink, it was time to call it a night. Well, looking through here on the car, some, recent places people have been on the map here, and Blue Origin Rocket Factory, cool. Rotor Riot Orlando. Well, that's a wild thing for somebody to have looked up in this car.
Beautiful morning here in sunny Cocoa Beach. Things have grown since I've been last here. Wow, we got a whole campus here. Interesting. There's T-Cat.
In a quarter mile, turn left.
Done with obligations for the day, I made my way back past Cape Canaveral Cruise Port. These cruise ships here are just absolutely enormous. I could see taking a trip on one of these big ships one day. Cruises do sail out of Seattle. After a long day of work, it was nice to head out onto the beach and relax amongst nature for a bit.
Another beautiful evening on the beach here in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Not bad.
I could get used to this. After relaxing on the beach for a while, I decided to go for a bit of an evening drive to grab a bite to eat and, see some of the surrounding area. It was dark, so not much to capture here and see on video, but I did have a very pleasant evening, taking it slow and winding down from a long day. A night walk out on the dark beach just before bed is a great way to take advantage of staying at a beachside hotel. One night, at about 1:45 in the morning, after a few last-minute delays, SpaceX launched another Falcon 9 booster, pushing another payload up to orbit.
Woohoo! There she goes.
This night launch was super cool to see, with the glow in the distance quickly becoming a super bright point of light in the sky that was almost hard to look at. 2 SpaceX launches in one trip? Sweet. On this flight, SpaceX sent another 23 of their Starlink satellites up to a 550-kilometer high orbit.
Well, that was cool.
All right, back to bed. I was up again early the next morning, back out near Kennedy Space Center for work obligations. After work, I headed back towards the beach to once again rewind down from a long day. I could get used to the beach life, as long as it was always this temperature. Summertime at the beach is a different experience. After a full work week here in Florida, it was time to get back to the Orlando airport and catch a morning flight back home to Seattle. The Orlando airport is a bit unique, having waterways interspersed with the taxiways and access roads, adding to the picturesque view early this morning. Quite a bit of airport activity this morning here in Orlando. It was fun watching these 3 jets approach and land before it was our turn to take to the runway and get on our way. Another successful work trip here to Orlando in the Cocoa Beach area. Despite being occupied with work obligations for most of the trip, I did have a little bit of free time to relax and unwind between each day. And there was rocket launches. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of Florida I was able to share with you on this trip. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the journey. Consider subscribing to the Gravelbound channel here on YouTube if you enjoyed traveling along on this trip. I have a few more work trips planned to Florida this summer, and will likely produce another Gravelbound video or 2 during my travels. Florida has a lot of nature to explore. I hope to get some time to check it out. Let's lean back and relax as we fly on back home to Seattle in the Pacific Northwest. There were some great views over the Cascade Mountains this morning as we descended towards the airport into the Seattle area. While the top of Mount Rainier was a bit obscured by clouds today, the intermittent clouds down in the mountain valleys helped to add depth to the overall mountainous scene. I have to say, Florida was fun, but it's so great to be able to call the mountains and forests of the Pacific Northwest my home. We soon descended into the clouds and had our view hidden until we were close to the airport, approaching for landing. It was another great flight on Alaska Airlines. We touched down smoothly at the Seattle-Tacoma Airport, a fine ending to another great trip.
Welcome to Seattle. The local time is 10:05. Please keep your seatbelts on. Our pilots will turn off the seatbelt sign when it's safe to get up.
Thanks for watching. Until next time. Nice. A local crowd of elk were waiting for me back home, ready to give me a warm welcome back to Washington.